Buenos días a todos, a todas. Vamos a comenzar en 2 minutos.
Good morning, everyone. We'll start in 2 more minutes.
Gracias.
Ok, vamos a comenzar entonces. Buenos días a todas, a
We're going to
todos.
start. Good morning, everyone.
Un gusto verlos.
It's a pleasure to see you all.
Estamos comenzando entonces este webinar
We are
de
just
KIX LAC,
starting this webinar, KIX
LabEd,
LAC,
promoviendo la innovación educativa en Centroamérica y
promoting
el Caribe
educational innovation in Central America and the Caribbean
para la justicia educativa.
for educational justice.
Para dar entonces inicio,
In order to start,
quería partir, por supuesto,
to kick off, I would like
agradeciendo
to start by
al
expressing my
equipo de
gratitude
SUMMA
to the
OECS que
SUMMA
están
team,
organizando
OECS,
esta segunda
who are the
llamada
organizers to this
al
second
Laboratorio de Innovación de
call
SUMMA.
to the
Y por
Innovation
cierto, nuestros
Laboratory of
colegas
SUMMA, and
del
of
Global
course,
Partnership for
our
Education
colleagues
y
of the
del
Global
IDRC,
Partnership for
nos
Education,
acompaña hoy día Florencio Ceballos,
joining us with us
oficial
today
de
is
programa,
Florencio
especialista en
Ceballos,
educación del
Program
IDRC,
Officer
que también
Specialist
nos
to
va a dar algunas
Light
palabras de
University.
bienvenida.
He will
Y por
also
cierto, también
express
a
his
cada
welcoming words, then of course
cada
to
uno de ustedes
everyone,
que vienen de los países
to each of you
del
coming
KIX,
from
socios de la
the
Alianza
KIX
Mundial para la
countries,
Educación.
partners of
Estamos muy
the
contentos de
Global
estar hoy
Partnership
día
for Education. I'm
hablando,
very happy
conversando
to be
respecto
today
a lo que
talking to
significa
you
la innovación
regarding what innovation
específicamente para
means,
la justicia
specifically
educativa,
for
como bien saben,
educational
SUMMA
justice,
tiene
as
por
you well
mandato
know.
y por misión
SUMMA's mandate
trabajar
and mission
específicamente no
is to
solo por el derecho
specifically
universal
work
de la
not only
educación como
for
un derecho
universal
humano, sino
rights of
también
education as a human
poner
right,
específico
but
énfasis y
also
foco en las
putting
poblaciones más
on a special
desventajadas de
focus
nuestra
and
región.
emphasis on the most
Eh,
vulnerable
Queremos
population of our
destacar
region.
en particular
We
la
like to highlight,
importancia
in
de
particular,
implementar
the
las
importance
iniciativas
of implementing
con mucha
initiatives
rigurosidad y es parte del trabajo que hoy día queremos
very
discutir, el
carefully,
trabajo
and
que
it's
vamos a
part
hacer
of the
con las
work we like to
innovaciones,
debate today, what we will do with
lo
innovation,
que implica evaluar lo que estamos
what
haciendo,
implies
monitorear
to
el
assess
trabajo
what
que
we are
estamos
doing,
haciendo.
monitoring the work we
¿Por
are
qué? Porque nos
conducting.
interesa de todas
And why
maneras
is that? Because
impactar
we
en
are
las
really
comunidades con las que
interested in
trabajamos
having an impact
y
on the communities we
eventualmente,
work
como
with,
siguiente paso,
and
escalar aquello que estamos
as the
haciendo. Esa
next
es parte
step to
como
scale up what we are doing.
de la
That's
mirada
part
general. Hoy día en
of the
particular vamos a
general
poner
overview.
foco en los
In
procesos de
particular,
teoría de
today will be
cambio,
focused
cómo
on
asegurar
theory of change
efectivamente que esos
processes,
impactos
how
ocurran, ya
to
vamos a
effectively
entrar en
ensure
detalle en
that
eso.
those impacts happening
Y
to
también
happen.
vamos a discutir en
And
siguientes
we'll also
momentos como
debate
parte de este
over,
ciclo también que
as
se
part of
relaciona
this
con
cycle,
el trabajo que hacemos desde el
relating
LabEd
to the
en
work
SUMMA
we do from Lab
respecto a la
in
sostenibilidad y
SUMMA
ya decía el
regarding
escalamiento de las
sustainability and
iniciativas.
towards the scaling up of the
Importantísimo
initiative.
destacar el
What's
trabajo en
very
terreno con
important
las
is the
comunidades
work
escolares que
in the
realizan
field
cada
with the
una de las innovaciones.
educational
Estoy
communities
dejando
working with
la sorpresa ya,
innovations.
no es tan sorpresa
I
ya porque
will give
ha
you a
sido
surprise,
anunciado en la
probably it's not
invitación,
a very big
pero
surprise because it
vamos
was
a conocer
announced in
las
the
4
invitation,
innovaciones,
but
las
we
que vamos a
will
reconocer.
get
Maciel,
to
mi
know the
compañera
4
del
innovations
KIX, también va a hacer
which
referencia
Maciel
a
will
eso.
talk about.
Reforzar el punto desde la
To
innovación, que no se trata
reinforce
solo de
innovation,
ideas creativas
which is not only about
queremos reconocer,
creative
sino que queremos
ideas, we like to recognize.
reconocer aquello que
We
está hoy
want to
día que
recognize
llamamos
what's
innovación
and what
promisoria,
we call today
que
promising
entonces
innovation,
requiere
which
soporte de
requires
distinto tipo
support from
para
different
efectivamente llegar a
types
aquellos resultados
to
esperados,
effectively
concretos,
reach those
medibles,
expected,
que son los que
concrete, and measurable
los que quisiéramos
results,
destacar.
the
Esto en
ones we like to
colaboración,
stand
estamos
out.
hablando de un
This is
ecosistema
in
de
cooperation. We are
innovación y
talking about an
colaboración.
innovation and
Hoy en
cooperation
día SUMMA
ecosystem.
tiene la
Today,
misión de entregar
SUMMA's mission is to provide
y poner el horizonte respecto a las teorías
and
de
place
cambio y
the
al
horizons
fortalecimiento
regarding the
de las
theory of
innovaciones en ese
changes,
sentido. El día de mañana, en
reinforcement
los
or
próximos meses,
strengthening of
estaremos
innovations in that
con
sense in
Brookings
the coming month,
Institution,
where we
específicamente
will
con una
Berkeley
iniciativa del proyecto
Institution,
KIX, que es
specifically
ROSI
with the
también,
KIX initiative,
que pone énfasis en el escalamiento e
with an
impacto de las
emphasis on the
innovaciones.
impact on the
Y en
scaling
ese
up of
sentido, ya para
innovations. And in
cerrar,
that sense, in order
este
to close
ecosistema
this
está
work,
compuesto
let me
por
tell you
distintas
that this
instituciones y
ecosystem is
actores. Quisiera
made of
destacar hoy
different
día el hecho de que estas
stakeholders and institutions.
innovaciones,
I like to
para
stand
estas
out
innovaciones
that
hemos
this institution
activado
for
comités
these
de
innovations
seguimiento,
we
donde
have activated
tenemos
monitoring committees
particular participación,
we have a
importante
special and
participación
important
de
participation
representantes de ministerios de
by
educación
Ministry
y de
of Education
universidades
representatives as well
específicamente de
as
los países con los que
universities
estamos trabajando. Eso
specifically
lo veremos
from the
durante el
countries
webinar
we are working
y
with.
muy
We'll see that
bienvenidas a todos,
throughout the
a todas
webinar. And
en
once
esta
more,
sesión. Que sea
welcome
provechosa.
everyone to this session.
Le doy la palabra
I'm
a
going to
mi
hand it
colega
over
de la
to
IDRC,
my
Florencio
colleague,
Ceballos.
Florencio Ceballos.
Hola, ¿me escuchan?
Hello, can you hear me?
Sí, muy bien. ¿Sí?
We hear you very well. All right, good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for the invitation. I won't go into detail. I just wanted to reinforce a couple of things Raúl has just pointed out regarding the way KIX program, Knowledge Innovation Exchange, and the Global Partnership for Education understands innovation and scalable innovation. Raúl has mentioned that this is part of an ecosystem, an innovation ecosystem, as well as enhancement of the education. And to us, that's key, that's essential. However, KIX as itself has some limitations aiming specifically, or probably they are related specifically to the possibility of the first innovation areas, stages, early innovations, promising innovations, those which are probably more prospective oriented, and they might give way to an innovation process a little bit more expandable and scalable. So to do so, it's important to start with the innovations we will be about to hear today. In that sense, we understand that the scaling up is a multiple stage process. It's a complex process, which does not necessarily mean to translate any type of innovation into an adoption of public policies, but a progressive process of construction, of evidence, of knowledge, of incorporating that innovation towards a vision to a theory of change, a more important one, which seems to us is essential. Then we understand that this type of innovation, which we may think it's on a minor scale, are a very important part of the ecosystem and something that makes us very happy when it comes to SUMMA being the leader or leading with tools we as KIX do not necessarily have. So we appreciate that, and we are interested in hearing the surprises we will have here. So thank you very much. I'll hand it over to someone else now. Thank you very much, Florencio. Thank you, Raúl. Welcome everyone again to this webinar on innovation. First, let me tell you that the webinar has simultaneous interpretation. You will find the button below to listening to Spanish, English, or French. Please keep your microphones muted. And if you want to participate actively, you can introduce yourself at the chat, on the chat box, and the questions should proceed in the same way. To start with the webinar, we like to tell you that this is a reflection space around educational innovation, as Florencio and Raul has mentioned, where we will recognize the 4 initiatives that are part of these. Then in this context, I very briefly want to say what it is about. During the last quarter in 2021, the second call for educational justice was held. So we were supported by with the university, Guyana University and National Pedagogic University in Honduras. The call sought just educational justice of the national systems of the KIX LAC countries through the identification, support, and dissemination in educational and promising innovation, as Raul was mentioning, with a high potential to impact through the accompaniment, specific accompaniment according to the needs of the project. When we talk about promising innovation, we basically refer to those innovations that are in an initial phase of development, and they have at least one pilot experience for implementation. And since they haven't gone through very rigorous assessment, they can give hints of positive results. And of course, impact potential of replicability and scalability. When we talk about, we're referring to ideas, smallest innovations that are new on a global level, or at least under a local context where they are applied. Again, let me explain that these innovations should have been already executed or implemented. That's important for this call, and proven in a specific context, which is what happens with the innovations we are presenting today. Then the 4 recognized innovations, the ones you are about to hear, defined the support or receive the support of KIX LAC. It's a funding support, but at the same time, in order to aim to the correct innovation, development of innovation, each one will receive a theory of change workshop, the one being conducted today after this workshop. That workshop is to generate a sustainability plan to the initiative and advisory to the theory of change. So we will receive 25 applications from Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, Santa Lucia, San Vicente, Haiti, and Guyana. Next slide, please. El Salvador, Peru, Martin. During March, we have selected 4, and today we'll publicly recognize those. I like to understand that each initiative has a monitoring committee. This is very important. And we'd like to highlight the work of this committee in the accompaniment to the initiative for this. And we'd like to appreciate, to thank Mr. Hernandez, Elma Barahona, Chamendis, Alisa, Violeta Gabo, Nora Cuadro, who are part of this monitoring committee in these 4 innovations. Next slide, please. To start, today I'd like to introduce and to open this conversation panel. I'd like to introduce Maria Jose Sepúlveda, the Director of SUMMA Assessment to Evaluation. She has worked in educational policy area. She's worked for 4 years in the Center of Studies of Ministry of Education of Chile, in the coordination of a statistical unit supporting the cabinet, with a main focus on generation and the informed decision-making on different ministry levels. She's a business administrator and has a master's degree in public policies from the University of Chile. Today, she will present innovation and recovery of learning in post-pandemic context. Thank you very much, Maria Jose, for accepting our invitation. Now the floor is yours. Thank you very much, Maciel. Thank you much to everyone. I will share my screen in order to start to talk about what innovation has been and recovery of learning under this post-pandemic context. Just a second. Now you can see my screen, right? So in terms of agenda, And as Maciel was saying, I thank for this opportunity. The idea would be to start talking about innovation in Latin America in this pandemic context and learning recovery. In terms of agenda, let me tell you what I would like to cover, which is precisely how this context has increased the educational gaps in the market context, how we got work, how we can provide an answer to this global evidence, the movement generated globally on how the important is to synthesize and making use of the evidence for the informed decision making, and how we have made progress in recognizes or systematizes the innovations which have proven to be promising with promising results in proving evidence for the transformation in the recovery of learning. And finally, to refer to some examples, cases, and challenges we have in terms of innovation and use of evidence. To kick off, I'd like to start retaking this context and where we are today after the pandemic. Educational system, both for Latin American and in the world, were profoundly affected due to this classes interruption process. There was also a difficulty for access being observed, which risk the context of higher vulnerability, which has generated through this year. We are retaking again the in-person return to classes. We have seen that there some educational gaps have increased and the risk to the exclusion of that the most vulnerable population. And therefore, there has been several things where we have to make progress. And in that line, we have identified three main challenges that, of course, the first one is recovery of learning, which is fundamental. That refers to in-person classes, but we have also found the need for moving towards a development of integrated learning where emotional skills are key when returning to classes. And moving on and foster this hybrid method of learning, something that the pandemic has shown that the systems of connectivity, although they may strengthen and provide progress to an integrated education and guarantee access of the population which has historically been left aside, at the same time it can go deeper into the gaps whether that access is not granted or if we don't take charge of the systems or support this new path, this new challenge. So in terms of context, the need to mobilize this transformation on education by identifying those programs, innovation, and policies which positively impact on decreasing these gaps that have been fostered during this context. And that framework and from the different educational innovation we have identified and what we're working with, we have seen that during this year it's been essential to be able to identify those gaps and challenges for each context. This is why common difficulties in the region and the potential facilitator the context could provide us with, identified and work with them so that we can make progress on this way of reduction of the gaps. On the other hand, we have seen that identifying practices which are positively having an impact is key, but we need to know which are the key levels generating those transformations. And why is that? Because with these tools, when we disaggregate these levels, we will be able to generate replicable proposals. And of course, as Raul has announced, to think of scalable models to better work with the systems in this replication of the innovations fostering the results for the gap reduction in educational systems in Latin America and the Caribbean. In that line, and as part of this work generated in terms of evidence and what would be working, this is part of a global movement to know what works, what best work in education and from innovation in Latin America. We have had the need to precisely know what or seek what are those educational practices, what evidence is showing in terms of promising results, how we can ensure a better responsibility and effectiveness when it comes to provide resources and dedicate time to innovate. And this is here where we believe it is relevant to accept the evidence in more academic terms to the classroom transfer by linking the practice with the evidence. And to do so, we have worked with some educational partners in the development of a platform of effective practices. Many of you might be familiar with it, but they basically synthesize evidences on the effective practice that should be generating an impact to reduce the gaps, accept communities, and guide this responsible innovation from valuable practices having a positive impact, followed by an evidence. And in this line, we have made progress as well as on the evidence and the synthesis of information. We believe it is important that evidence goes hand in hand with this more academic evidence. We have also moved on the synthesis of a practical evidence through an innovation mapping. So what is what we understand by innovation in Latin America? To answer this, from SUMMA and the different programs we are developing, what we have done throughout the years is to generate the innovation map. And that's a platform whose objective is to identify, disseminate, and distribute successful experiences in innovation, which have been promoted and developed both in Latin America and the rest of the world, under the mission of highlighting practices, initiatives, and programs with a positive result. Therefore, this innovation map is part of the gathering of several innovations in the region. More than 900 experiences have been reviewed, and a series of criteria are established in order to evidence what those evidences are having positive results to approach the diverse dimensions, educational dimensions, which have been affected particularly in this post-pandemic context. Specifically through the synthesis and the characterization of this innovation in our platform, in our innovation plan, we have 75 valuable working on the improvement of integrated learning by the students sustained in evidence or evidence-based from the practice. In this line, and to see how this innovation map has grown, and then I would like to tell you that throughout the years, what we have done from SUMMA, it's been an update in this post-pandemic context, focused on identifying those innovations which were focalized or addressing the strengthening of learning, showing results in terms of learning recovery in this context of the return to in-person classes. So what we did was basically identify 10 experiences added to this innovation map, which allows us to evidence, to show these characteristics in these innovations with promising results in the reduction of learning gaps. So what we did was to use an identification methodology and the mixed or blended strategies where we review international reports, secondary sources from the OECD, where more than 74 migration experiences toward the acceleration and improvement of learning were reviewed, and where we established criteria for admission and pertinence of relevance for the region and this context. And as I've been telling you, have identified an innovation focus on the particular recovery of learning in this post-pandemic context. With no more detail, you always have the possibility to check the platform or the innovation map. I would like to synthesize and summarize on what these different innovations shows us. What I can highlight here is that there are different themes, cases, and successful cases and experiences to address these challenges, where we have identified convergences, which are basically those context characteristics where there is no recipe or one solver, rather it is an experience what we show, enabling the identification of key levels or characteristics of those innovation generating results. What we have identified is that all these innovations with a positive results are characterized in a very defined process, a comprehensive theory of change, which evidences this logic chain on how we go from the activities we provide as an implementing institution to products, intermediate results, and final results, which cause a series of changes, allowing us to generate learning and evidence for the process we are conducting. And in that line, and also as a way to share these challenges and opportunities we have identified from innovation and the use of evidence. In this context, from SUMMA, our articulating role, we have had important progress in learning. And they refer to the characteristics where we need to move on and to foster within the Latin American context. And to do so, one of the global challenges and one of the main learning is that for innovation and the use of evidence to achieve transformation in the classroom as well as transformation in learning, it is necessary and key collaboration among the different parties of the system. From SUMMA, through a funding, we have achieved the articulation of teams implementing innovations of external values with a perspective from learning and the potential questions for learning that might be relevant, and from the school as a protagonist and key role in this learning. Articulating this from SUMMA has been such an important and enriching process to precisely know and understand the key of what's important of nurturing, being nurtured from the different experiences, roles, and capabilities of the teams making up this concept of learning. And in that line, and as I have told you, in terms of identification, in terms of identification of valuable processes, what we have seen is that it is essential to have a solid justification on how we expect resources and communities achieve such results. And in that sense, the theory of change was the central axis for the development and the learning of what's being generated in terms of innovation.
We also believe that the creation of evidence through rigorous assessment, which are adding to these processes, it is fundamental at the time of having an input, an element validating, which are all of those assumptions behind what it works, what context under which features, characteristics we may consider in order to advance alongside this line. And also, which are the risks which we should try to mitigate in order to advance. Finally, as we said before, one of the main learnings in this process, it's been the collaborations amongst the different stakeholders, getting to identify innovations which are effective, but it's been a really collaborative process where it is also so fundamental to increase the institutional system capabilities and also working, acknowledging the capabilities that we already have. Alongside that line, and as I said before, the key it is cooperation, working in the system, and the assessment It is a recursive process, which is working with plenty of supplies. And in that way, we'll know what it works, why it is working, and how it is working. We need to open this black box of transformation, which is there in innovation, in order to add all of this process from an assessment, which has as a focus the feedback of processes and learning. Alongside that, within the opportunities and the challenges that we have seen for this innovation, we need to acknowledge the capabilities of the system of the professionals inside in the different institutions. Over here, we have seen that the professional dialogue between peers, it is a key element, acknowledging, getting to know which are the capabilities and restrictions on the systems in order to promote and boost the role of the different stakeholders, different institutions, both at a school level, state level, and organization level. Organizations which are creating innovation. That is something fundamental in this articulation in order to reduce the gaps between the academia and the educational communities, but also in order to reduce or connecting those bodies or systems which are exist at a country level, which may be benefited in this innovation line, including them within their processes. Finally, as we said before, we need to assessment in order to have an assessment which has as a main focus the continuous improvement, creating new evidence. This assessment in the Latin American context and the Caribbean has a load which is so negative, which is highly connected to some sanctions. So therefore, we need to transform this into a culture which has this feedback, which is at the very base of the improvement of activities and projects, the creation of new content, and the identification of those challenges or lines of action, and also to identify, as I said before, the variables of mitigations of assumptions that we need to work on or articulate within the system so we can go from innovation, which is promising, to an scalability, boosting the effectiveness and the achievement of improvements in the results in learning processes. In order to conclude, and we have a couple of questions to think about, especially for these challenges ahead related to innovation and the articulation with the evidence. So what tools and assessment are there available? And over here, I have two questions for you. First question, how can we identify these change levers that move transformations in this learning of students, both boys and girls? And also, second question, how can we ensure the replicability and the scalability of these interventions? So with that, I'm finishing my presentation. And I will stop sharing the screen. Thank you very much, Maria Jose. Thank you for your presentation. It has been quite interesting. And it is so aligned with what we're going to see now, which are these 4 initiatives acknowledged by KIX LAC, which are going to contribute in order to close those gaps which increased with the pandemic, but that have always been there. And we need to think about the questions, which is the change leverage or lever. That is a fundamental question. We need to do it in a constant fashion in order to solve and in order to advance. So at the very end, there will be a Q&A session where we're going to answer those questions, or we can even have more questions. You can write your questions in the chat box. There will be some space so we can have a conversation. So now I'd like to tell you that we're going to get to know these 4 initiatives that were acknowledged, recognized by. Each initiative has components, not only related to innovation, but also they also work for educational justice and in order to try to reduce these access gaps and quality gaps, always having a perspective which is territorial. These 4 initiatives that EduLab acknowledged were this leadership program for education of Bahia Island from Pierre Foundation in Honduras, Connect and Learn from Zamora Terán in Honduras, strengthening skills in learning from Pedagógica de Cooperación Genuina Foundation in Nicaragua, and promoting equality of gender in schools by Oncotu from Dominica, which is implemented in Dominica, Granada, Santa Lucia, St. Vincent. So congratulations to these 4 initiatives. It's been a pleasure for us as a team to work with them. And we're going to present the first video prepared by these initiatives. This leadership for Bahia Island, it is a 1-minute video, and then later they will be able to explain the initiative a little bit more. So Marco, let's go with the first video.
Muchas gracias por ese
Thank you very
video.
much for that video. Frida, are you there? We'd like to know if you can tell us in a few minutes and tell us, explain what this initiative is about, which are the elements, the innovative elements of the project, and some feature characteristics that you as a team consider as key. We have a few minutes, so the world wants to know about this initiative. So please, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in this amazing world. It is an honor for us to, having been selected, our leadership program, the organization, Partnership Education Rodan, or as it is known and recorded in Honduras, pro-integration for for years, been working with teachers, and during the pandemics, we observed all of the difficulties and the challenges that teachers faced. Sadly, in the case of teachers in Isla de la Bahia, Bahia Island, there are many accesses which are access to programs, regular programs of training, which unless they are online, they cannot access them. But our program, it is centered in making this education program accessible for our teachers in Isla de la Bahia. The Department of Honduras, which is one of the culturally more diverse, there we have different languages, different cultures. We have different indigenous peoples. And through our program of leadership, we're going to strengthen the capabilities of teachers in pedagogy for innovation, where they, from their experiences, they are going to be the one creating ideas, and they're going to be able to put into practice all of their innovations. So one of the things is that this program, one of the goals, it is to be scalable, and it can also be repeated anywhere in the country. Because our population, in our population, we have teachers who are in the continent, mainland, and there are teachers who are Black. They speak English. We have Garifuna teachers. We also have Mosquitoes teachers. And therefore, one of the goals that we have, it is making this program inclusive and accessible. And also, we want to promote the development, professional development of our teachers, especially in Bay Islands, in these 4 municipalities, where there is representativeness of these indigenous peoples. We want to promote also educational innovation, not only center in teaching and training, but also promoting innovation. And at the very end, we want to promote all of those innovations or those projects, educational projects created by teachers. The most promising ones should be implemented. So that's why we're really happy we're talking about our teachers. So that has been, we want to be part of this program. And we also want to have a multidisciplinary teamwork representing different indigenous peoples in Bay Islands. It is an honor for us to be here. Thank you very much. Thank you, Timna. It is a beautiful project. It is a huge opportunity to get to know you in person. So we're really happy to work with you. And congratulations once again for this acknowledgement from SUMMA KIX LAC. Let's watch the second video from Conecta Aprende initiative from Zamora Terán initiative. Marco?
Aunque existan distintos modelos de aprendizaje, hay algo en lo
Even
que
though there are different learning models, all of the institution, the educational institution, the development of skills, the video is not being shown. We're just watching a screen where all of the files are. We're going to try it again.
aunque existan distintos modelos
Even though
de
there are different learning models, there's something all of the international bodies and institutions, educational ones, are agree upon. The development of the competencies of writing and reading from an early stage, it is important, but it is fundamental. And it is even too important to develop all of the soft skills. It's been said by UNESCO in this research, which is regional, comparative, and which explain everything. And this challenge, if we have the distance, remote challenge, it is even more difficult. That's why since the beginning of the pandemic, as an organization devoted to the future of boys and girls in the region, we have created Conecta Aprende, a program for professional development for teachers, with an approach in the transition towards this virtuality, digital alphabetization, and writing and reading, benefiting 772 teachers in Nicaragua and Honduras through virtual courses, workshops, and pedagogical accompaniment. Online, we train teachers in order to teach through a screen. So with you are devoted and committed to the future. Thank you, Marco. So Esther Calderon is going to tell us about in order to go deeper into this beautiful project. Esther, the floor is yours. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. It is a pleasure for me to be here sharing with you all and sharing this experience, which has been so important for us. There are 4 elements which are fundamental, which I want to highlight here. The first one has to do with the approach of reading and writing. At a world level, after the pandemics, the index in terms of learning crisis is being higher. So having a route which wants to improve all of these skills, it is one of the challenges that we have, and it is also an opportunity in order to contribute not only for Nicaragua and Honduras, and also to the regional context all over Central America and the Caribbean. The second approach that I want to highlight, it is that our proposal, it is an inclusive program, integrating program. As it was said before, the biggest challenge that we had during the pandemics was having opportunities, both in those vulnerable zones. And this program was thought for its implementation in vulnerable zones, which are rural and urban areas, which are marginal, which don't necessarily have the internet connection. Another formative route was also thought considering these needs of connectivity, devices, and courses, and the different tasks, resources would also work even in cell phones or a low and medium range. And something which made this opportunity so important was accompaniment, permanent one. It was not only enough just to train people, we needed to accompany and have a follow-up. And the third one, it is the work one-on-one through this pedagogical accompaniment with each of the teachers. This accompaniment wants to, or it is a methodology which want to promote and boost the teaching practices with an structured pedagogy approach, which requires constant improvement and gives the possibility for teachers, which together with the pedagogical sponsors can develop a reflection process where the teacher is going to learn and is going to apply, and there will be an evidence of this application in the classroom. The role of the coach or the pedagogical advisor is basically to support and do a follow-up to this teacher through a plan of implementation of continuous improvement. So he can integrate every single one of the strategies which he's going to use in the classroom. We have also promoted some training process for reflection at a teacher's level. And last year, we had a conversation where teachers from 6 countries gathered, including Nicaragua, Honduras, and countries from the Caribbean. And they explain all of those things that we have at a regional level that have to do with the competencies of reading and writing, and those good practices that we can also learn from each other in order to improve all of the needs that we have as a regional level. And finally, this culture of assessment through monitoring, assessment, and learning, this association, this is an important tool because that assures that we're in proper path of training. We have implemented a process of constant assessment in order to know the changes in these practices, educational practices of teachers before, during, and after. And in that way, we may find which is the proper path in order to continue with this training, the accompaniment, and even the methodological trends, which can ease the learning, significant learning in surroundings which are not virtual now, but also in hybrid spaces. Thank you very much. Thank you. I want to thank the whole team, Samara Terán, Conecta Preta. We could also see the implementation of this initiative. So we are really happy to work with you. So now we're going to go to our next initiative. Marco, can you please play the video? Strengthening skills when learning in Nicaragua. We are Pedagogic Foundation Genuine Cooperation. Since 2017, we have implemented this project Vida Live. So in this version of Vida, we're going to research the possibility of uniting these values with innovations in order to answer, to give an immediate response to the during the first phase, that is to say, the valorization. This research is going to be done in the Esteli municipality in 20 neighborhoods and 20 communities, visiting 20 homes in each of the neighborhoods and each of the communities. We will have 60 normalist volunteers. This is a project strengthening skills in learning with the genuine cooperation of Red, SUMMA and KIX LAC, Universidad Nacional Autónoma de Nicaragua, and Ministry of Education. Thank you. So Winnie, over there, please tell us a bit more about this initiative. Good morning, everyone, and thank you. Thank you for this invitation, for the opportunity to be here, share with you all. We're really happy of being here. So the project, in a nutshell, it has two phases. The first phase of assessment, which we call valorization, and the second phase of innovation, which is about sessions where we offer activities in order to reinforce reading and mathematics from the results which were obtained in the first phase. But over here, I will share a little bit about the innovative approaches of this project. First of all, it is centered in the boy and the girl, in their realities, in their context, and in the needs of learning that they have. So the valorization phase, it is done work a lot. of exercises, but also in qualitative instruments, which allow us to understand the context and the observation tools, and also dialogues with the people who are participating, teachers, relatives, and boys and girls. Also, the time of interpretation and giving the meaning and analysis of the results is so important for us. It has to be done collectively, together with the Ministry of Education, representative of the ministry, teachers, and over here, we also believe that the assessment it is much more than a quantitative process. So we want to connect this with innovation, and we also want to obtain inputs, supplies, elements on how boys and girls learn. Also, during the process of our innovative sessions, not only we're going to understand what it is known or how they read or how they solve these math exercises from the assessment, but also during the sessions of work. So that is that. Thank you. Thank you very much. The audio is breaking a little bit. We cannot really understand what it's been said, so we're going to wait a little bit. So I hope we're going to keep on working together. Now we have these workshops and we're really happy with this. And now we're going to continue. Can you hear me now? Yes. Can we play the last video, please? So we're going to play the last video that we have for now. We're sorry for the inconvenience in the message.
Association a été créée en
Our
2020.
association was created in 2020 for promoting culture and languages. We are 3 people. We're losing the audio. There's a connection problem. Our project is called Promoting Gender Equality at School. Our association was created in 2020 in order to promote languages and cultures of the Caribbean and accompanying teachers. We're 3 people in the team. We have 4 main goals: training teachers, including considering the different genders into these pedagogical practices. We want to promote girls to find either another type of profession, and social promotion for countries are in this project: Dominic, San Lucy, and Grenada. Our activities foresee creating some lines for teachers, multilingual workshops, pilot projects with students. This is an example of our training online. Thank you very much. Yes, we're having some internet connection problems. So now we're going to give the floor to Sabrina, please. Good morning. Thank you very much for having supported us. We are really thankful for KIX and SUMMA for having selected our project. We're an association in Martinica, but we're working for quite a long time with some other countries in the Caribbean, especially the ones speaking French. And this year, we wanted to work in an important topic, which is equality of genders, gender equality. In many countries in the Caribbean where they speak French, girls are more successful at school, and therefore we may think that there is no problems at equality level. Unfortunately, when we research a little bit more about that topic, we realize that these inequalities appear at a professional level. That is to say, when they choose some professions, women use some job positions and men use some other job positions, and of course are better paid and better qualified as well. And at a political level, women have less representativeness than men. So we wanted to study or wonder why girls do better at school, but they cannot access some professions. That's why we wanted to create a training for teachers, French teachers, because of course we are an association that promotes the French language. So it was basically for teachers teaching foreign languages. So I wanted to give them some techniques and resources in order to include and consider genders in order to favor equality between boys and girls, in order to fight against the stereotypes all spread all over the school. I mean, the sexist stereotypes. And we wanted to cover as many teachers as possible. We chose 4 countries: Santa Lucia, Granada, and San Francisco, countries where we have worked before. We have worked with teachers there, and there's also a distance online training. So for teachers, we have offered a training which is online, and it is asynchronic, so they can manage their time as they wish. We know that for teachers, sometimes it is rather hard to have some available time. So that's why we selected this type of training. We also have a multilingual guide in order to spread the information to other teachers teaching languages, with teachers who speak Spanish and the ones who speak English. This guide, it is going to be on paper and it's going to be digital as well. So in that way, we're going to have a better coverage. And later for students, we have developed some workshops at schools, in-person schools, which are going to be guided by some local personalities who are working in this initiative related to equality. People working with women who are having a profession which is rather innovative with not so much representativeness. So the main goal of these workshops is showing students that girls can also access to other type of professions. They may have bigger opportunities. They may access to science, technology, and they can also be entrepreneurs. They shouldn't just work in service professions. So our main goal with these workshops, it is identifying the different local people, so these workshops can be repeated in some other schools or in some other countries, but of course in other schools of the country. And also in order to create some networks between the different personalities or people who are going to be in charge of these workshops. And participants can also get involved in these activities which are going to be offered by these different associations. So innovation, it is an important element, and it is going to be quite innovative. This is the first time which we're going to offer a training of this type. And it's going to be online. It will be about gender, it is innovative, and also the workshops done at schools will be innovative as well, because not many workshops about these topics are there available. So we also need to face some challenges in some topics. For instance, there are some concerns related to the ministry in terms of the reaction of parents, which may have some kind of rejection in order to address some topics, such, for instance, the talking about sexual orientation. So we need to adapt the content of our training and workshops. And we need to consider the concerns that may arise. And we're still being in touch with the different ministries. We're trying to organize the content of this training. We're at the very beginning of this initiative, but we're really happy of participating, and we're really eager to get to know a little bit more about this change theory of this, workshop that we're going to have later. And we're really thankful for the accompaniment of KIX and the committee of piloting. So thank you very much. Thank you very much, Sabina. We're also eager to see what you have done. We want to congratulate you. We're working together. We have a support committee for the implementation. So honoring time, we're going to start this conversation. We want to invite Elma Barahona, a teacher from Universidad Nacional Francisco Morazán, BCSAC, teacher of Guyana University, and Maria Jose, the director of assessment at SUMMA. We're going to have a conversation about these issues related to innovation in Central America and the Caribbean. And also, we want to invite the follow-up committee and the initiatives to participate in a brief way. So to do so, we're going to ask some questions related to what it means to innovate in education, which are the challenges in this territory. And maybe our guest, Elma Charmel, maybe they have seen that some of the initiatives may answer some of the challenges that we have seen, which are the key elements that may be highlighted in these initiatives. Elma, the floor is all yours. Thank you very much for being here. You are part of the follow-up committee as well of two of our initiatives. So you're most welcome. The floor is all yours. Thank you very much. I want to thank you all. So briefly, I will talk about what I could observe in the visit in the field. That was fascinating. We were in one of the schools with this Conecta Aprende program. We met their experience, and basically, I believe that that type of experiences contribute with key information on what's happening, how it happens, and of course, it helps us to identify challenges. I will center in four aspects. First, the construction of a nourishing environment for learning, collective learning. In education, our assessments are traditional, and the way of getting together are based in mistreatment. So I loved how the main actors there interact from respect position, from security, safety, in order to, that's a platform for starting this initiative. They emphasize a lot this socio-emotional dynamics. So that creates a space of communication and where there are relationships which are more constructive, seeing teachers and students and the Zamora Terán Foundation interacting there was so enriching. So from there, that creates an empowerment context. We saw teachers presenting their statistics on how children learn, how they are monitoring the learning in children. And that, of course, talks about an achievement of research competencies because they're producing data, which allow them to understand the reality, which allow them to contrast their realities and see how boys and girls learn. And another element, it is important, it is how, in that context, they try what they need for that project to be scalable. At a time, someone shared, because we're seeing at this school how much we need in terms of connectivity. What is the range of connectivity that we need or that we have in order to check the parameters, the investment that requires or means how we're going to work with the other schools. So specific data which are there, which give us some information on what's happening. And finally, this support network with this articulation of the key actors, an ecosystem where the actors are in touch, where they may reflect, make decisions, take decisions, identify difficulties, they find solutions. I think it is so important. So I want to congratulate all of these initiatives. We expect to be in Bay Islands pretty soon. I am here in Honduras, and I want to get to know what's happening there. Thank you very much, and greetings to Marcial and Raul. We were together there, sharing, this visit on site in one of the.
Thank you very much, Elma. We're also working on the implementation of the initiative. It is essential what you say. It comes to theory and practice. And now I will hand it over to Charmaine. Charmaine, if you have some observation, comments on what we have seen today in the webinar, welcome and thank you very much for participating.
Thank you so much for having me. I just would like to say that I'm blown away by the entire experience and these 4 presentations. I would like to say briefly that my concept of innovation in education in Latin America and the Caribbean means to be internally motivated, where we individually strive to create, implement, and sustain change collectively, do so for the good of society. And I think all 4 presentations have shown that the implementers have done so. I especially praise the fact that post-pandemic, we were able to embrace our indomitable spirit, and these implementers or innovators capitalized on their enterprising and entrepreneurial thinking in creating and implementing and sustaining new ways of teaching, leading, and learning. What I would like to say, though, that all 4 of the presentations spoke to the importance of educational justice, gender equality, and, as the previous speaker said, socio-emotional intelligence. And these are important skills. I would also like to commend each presenter on an excellent job done. What resonated with me for the first, for example, for the Bay Islands project was the fact that all key stakeholders were involved in the process. I also liked that there was a focus on Indigenous persons, and I was pleased to see that there was work with all the teachers. For Connector Learns, what I found is that I also liked the fact that it was a literacy program and it benefited 700 plus teachers. And of course, this will have a ripple effect. I also like the fact that this Connector Learns tried to bridge the digital divide by having participants use their cell phones in the cases where they probably would not have had a computer or a laptop or a tablet. I also appreciated the fact that there were follow-up plans in place to help the teachers. For Vida Life, I like the different phases. I like that you attempted to meet the students at their individual level and needs. And I also like that you focused on mathematics and reading, because I see this in the long run as helping to increase the PISA scores for mathematics and English. And the last one, I think this one is my pet peeve, or I am big on gender, and I think I agree with this presenter that far too often we tempt to pigeonhole or lock our students or girls into particular industries and particular professions, such as the service industry. So I appreciate what you are doing and that you are trying to push them to open them up and let them be more aware of their choices. And that is where STEM comes in, because we are still finding that there are not enough women studying science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So again, this was an excellent project. And in closing, I would like to once again commend and congratulate all the participants and also SUMMA KIX LAC for this initiative and for showcasing the teachers' hard work. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Charmaine. Muchas gracias por palabras.
Thank you very much. Maria Jose, maybe you want to say something in 2 minutes about initiatives presented. I would also like to thank and congratulate the initiatives. It's such a pleasure to know the level of development they are in when it comes to the new challenges they are addressing, and of course the contribution they are generating in the region in terms of teachers' development and the different learnings they have experienced. Yes, that was a question in the chat. And to anticipate the workshop we are having is how we can give way to the theory of change, the importance of identifying the initial diagnostics and the needs and the interventions are providing an answer. What would be the clear activities that will perform the products produced by this intervention, measurable products and expected outcomes, which cause some assumptions and risks we should mitigate as we identify that logic change. So the invitation is to see whether the theory of change works in order to generate learning questions, which finally give way to improvements and sustainability on the development of these innovations. Therefore, my invitation is for you to continue working, participating in these workshops so that we can continue fostering our transformation, strengthening the capabilities of the teacher's role as a central axis in terms of transformation we have, but always by using the support, the tools, and this as part of the system that we kick off and follow up in what we are doing. Thank you very much. I thank you for this space. There will be a survey, will be in Spanish, in English, and French. You have to answer it, please, is to know about the appreciations on this webinar. And to close, we'll invite Celeste Borton, which is an EDOEC, to give their closing remarks. Welcome, Celeste.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. It's it's still morning by me. I hope that you can hear me. Yes, great. Thank you very much for inviting us as the OECS. I represent the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States. KIX and Latin America, we have been working to some extent with you and collaborating. So thank you for inviting us to offer some closing remarks on this webinar. And some of my colleagues may have more familiarity with your work, but I've certainly sat in on some of the meetings that you have had. And because most of them are out on mission, it's my turn to congratulate, first of all parties, all teachers and agencies involved in this work, very important work. From the perspective of the OECS, we are quite pleased and gratified to learn of those innovations and those research projects. They align perfectly with some of our strategic priorities, especially those that focus on equity of access and focusing on gender, because gender equity also a priority for the OECS region. And we're happy to know that some of the OECS islands are also involved in projects that have been selected. So that brings quite some warmth to our hearts. Just kind of in closing, I want to note some of the points that I've noted on the webinar for this morning, I note that we talk about innovation, and we have actually targeted very, very key and very important elements in our education system. As a matter of fact, because innovation can be applied multidisciplinary elements, we have actually focused on the projects that we have presented here, have actually focused on those that are the areas that are most in need in our education system. So that is quite commendable. We also note that they have been stimulated by desires for teachers to be trained, desires for greater access to education, desires within the system to improve. And we are at a particularly important juncture. They are very timely because of the impact that the pandemic has had. In some respects, we see some of these things as blessings coming out of the pandemic, because they have actually motivated and stimulated us in the direction of really applying those wide notions and those wide interpretations of innovation to some of the key elements and needs of our systems. I notice also that there's a focus on problem solving, which is an area that, again, for the OECS, we are concerned about within the education system. We see that transition from educating as a content, a knowledge-based practice into one that is practical and one that focuses on problem solving. So some of the projects are forcing teachers or getting them engaged in problem solving, applying problems. And of course, that kind of modeling is certainly going to impact the students as well. We also note some key elements that ran through the presentations, the importance of the research and the collection of data to inform and guide the projects, but also that continuous collection of data and continuous informing of the processes and the activities that we engage in. The focus on collaboration, right? The various agencies that assist in the education system, the collaboration, so very important. And of course, as we move from the pandemic and we move into what we refer to as recovery, there's so many lessons that we can learn from those projects, from those programs. We are happy that, this opportunities here. We are happy that so many projects were submitted, and so agencies and groups are ready to take advantage of the opportunities that are there. It tells us that we are actually on the right track to improving our systems, but more so to doing what is necessary and collecting the data and conducting the projects so that we are better informed and that our decisions going forward are grounded and they are sound. So with these few remarks, I would like to thank you again for inviting us, and certainly to congratulate those who are well on their way in conducting those reports. We look forward to the reports, and we certainly look forward to participating in some more of your exercises. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Celeste. Bueno, y estamos llegando al
Thank you
final.
very much, Celeste. And we are about to finish this webinar. Please try to answer the survey. It's on the chat. We thank you, all the participants, the initiatives and the station committees. Also thank the articulation committee, the monitoring committee for each initiative. We'll continue reviewing this type of instances. We continue working jointly for their implementation. So I say goodbye and thank everyone. Thank you, everyone, and the initiative. So please stay here for the Theory of Change workshop conducted in 5 more minutes. We'll have a 5-minute break now. Thank you very much for the participants. Thank you very much.
Gracias, buen día.
Gracias.
Merci beaucoup. Merci beaucoup. C'est heureux de participer à cette rencontre.
Merci.